Hi, everyone. As Rich said, I'm Sarah Moonje, and thank you for joining us at today's CMO panel, Broadening Marketing's Impact in 2024. We have three other exceptional ladies here today, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves. But just quickly, a little bit about the topic before we dive in. So it's going to be no surprise that we've witnessed some stormy waters this year. We've seen disruptors like generative AI, the need to do less with more, and the pressure as marketers to deliver more value. So in this panel, we're going to chat about how to build a cohesive brand through mergers and acquisitions, AI in marketing practices, and setting ethical guidelines for AI's application. Our panelists will explore how they reframed marketing from a cost center to a revenue generator, cross-functional collaboration, and the integration of RevOps and go-to-market alignment. So, like I said, I'm going to let each of the panelists introduce themselves. So we have Jo Scalpello.
Hi everyone, I'm Jo. I work for Trafalgar Entertainment. And if you haven't heard of our brand and business, we're a group of live entertainment companies. So we have theatres, cinema, theatre production companies. We have a business that streams concerts and content all the way around the world. We have performing arts education and a ticketing business. A few ticketing businesses actually, and there's about 26 different companies in the group, all within the same kind of area, but all of them have slightly different operating models. So I'll probably talk about that a little bit more during this speech.
And Auberie?
Hi everybody, I'm Auberie. I work for Dialpad. Hopefully you know us because we're one of the headline sponsors of this event. For the ones that are not familiar with what we do, we provide an AI-powered communication platform. We'll touch a bit more on this in this panel. And I head our EMEA marketing function over here.
And Maegan Toups, VP of Marketing at Airswift. Y'all know me already.
Okay, so just quickly before we dive in, Jo, do you want to share a little bit about what makes a great CMO in 2024?
Yeah, sure. In my opinion, I think a good CMO is someone who can utilize all of that experience. You know, if you make it to CMO, invariably, you've worked in every different aspect of marketing and made some great decisions and some not so great decisions. And I think that feeds your kind of experience and your rationale for, I don't know, new trends, new technological advances, and helps you shape a decision on how you're going to invest not only resource but money into those different solutions going forward. So I think there's utilising your existing experience that you've got. But the second thing, and arguably the biggest thing for me, is taking time to recruit a really good team and then enabling them to do the job. Give them the freedom to do the job, don't micromanage, let them grow into the role, let them inspire you, course correct where you need to, but invariably just give them the freedom to be the marketer that they are, because I think a good team is a reflection of you anyway, and if the rest of the business see competent, confident people, then you know that instills a lot of confidence about your decision making across marketing per se.
And Auberie, what are you most proud of in 2024?
So I would say it's more of a reflection on 2023 since we're, I guess, halfway through the year in 2024. Dialpad is a US HQ'd company, and we're undergoing our internationalization, or I guess expansion into new market, spearheading those efforts from a marketing standpoint here in the region. And in this context, what I'm most proud of is really partnering with my US counterpart in bringing that data-driven mindset to EMEA, really going to market and not like we're shooting in the dark type of motion, but more like making decisions that are grounded in data, as well as really educating and being a catalyst for what we call localization or regionalization of marketing strategy, because that's really a key thing of what I've seen US companies do is they try to go to market in other market the way they do in their home market, and more often than not, it does not work.
I think we'll touch on that a little bit as well. Okay, Maegan, and so last question. How have you seen the role of a CMO evolve?
I think a CMO has changed from they used to manage the brand and the brand codes, and all that's still very important, but it's moved into more of a revenue growth role. And so CMOs are responsible now for the campaigns that they're running and being able to attribute it back to revenue growth.
And so you've been at Airswift now for 12 years, is it? 15. Sorry about that. And so you've led the recruitment agency through a series of mergers and acquisitions, with notably a large acquisition, I'm going to say 5 years ago, but you might correct me. 8. So I have my ears a little wrong here. So what was your approach through these mergers and acquisitions in building a cohesive brand? And then when you created that new brand, what was your approach there?
So we've done 1 merge and 2 acquisitions in the last 8 years, and the merge in 2016 was really a merging of 2 equals. So we were competitors, we were 2 very strong, well-known brands in the market. So we made the decision to start a new brand, and that was hard. We were both very well-known, had been around for 30, 35 years, but I think it was the right one in the end. So we did have to do more of the broader brand awareness and advertising to just let everyone know we're still here, this is just what we're called now. So that was the more challenging route. And then the last 2 acquisitions we've done, we decided to go with the Airswift brand. So what I would say is think about what's the right choice for you, that it's going to depend. And then once you make that choice, the key is moving very swiftly on the marketing side because it's so highly visible. So the sooner you can update the website and get people merchandise and just have them feeling like they're one brand rather than operating under 2, the smoother it's going to go. And then have a dedicated work stream that is responsible for doing all these actions, because there are about 100+ things that need to be done very quickly and very intentionally. And we had a work stream with several people on it that we met weekly, and we all had deadlines. We were responsible for getting these things done. And if there was any slippage, it was highly visible and not fun to have to say you're behind on anything. So those would be my key takeaways.
And then Jo, Trafalgar Entertainment Group has also experienced some rapid expansion. What were some of the leadership challenges that you faced during those periods, and then how did you address them?
Well, I think one of the major things we had, and I'm going to hop back to post-COVID, was our industry and our focus on the kind of theatres and the theatre production side there. You know, the government very much informed us when we were going to open the venues, and we had to kick back into a rolling programme very quickly. We had no procurement, so we had no drinks behind the bar, we had no food, no snacks. We had to recruit staff very quickly and flex that back up. We had to put product on market. We had to put shows in venues within about a 6-week period where we had to recruit the team, tech rehearse, and then get it live. And that was really interesting because it put pressure on every single area of the business, from procurement starting from a standstill to the accounts team having to pay very quickly and get that process going, because up until that point, actually, it was just a rolling process. And what we learned really as a leadership team there was it was really imperative to support your staff and communicate really effectively, because there were pressure points all along the process that felt untenable at times. But actually, just with a little bit of extra focus and guidance from the leadership team, and it's okay to not manage that process effectively all on day one, but we can break it down and work through it. It was okay. I mean, we had customers that stuck with us, were really loyal in a really uncertain world. So we got there in the end, but it was challenging. And I think the key really was just really good communication between us all across the whole of the group. So yeah, I think the key is communication really.
Okay, Auberie. Now you touched on international expansion and the need to localize. So Dialpad's expansion strategy, their go-to-market approach, has looked a little different than what we've seen with Airswift and Trafalgar. Can you touch on a little bit of what that looks like for Dialpad?
Yeah, of course. So building on my experience working for largely B2B tech companies, going to market in a new market, regardless of if it's a region, a country, takes many different ways. And you have many variables that you have to take into consideration. So you have market characteristics, you have your ICP, ideal customer profile, you have the industry, your product, your monetization model. So all those key variables, you have to really embed them in your go-to-market strategy, which then educates your marketing strategy in the region or the market you're trying to penetrate. So I'll draw on two examples. Back at one of the companies I worked for, we had an open source product. So basically the go-to-market motion was really how do we convert open source users into paying customers. We didn't really have the need to build that user base. It already existed. So the expansion was quite quote unquote organic. And then the marketing strategy was really focused on product-led growth and just making sure that we were building a strong product and then converting those open source / free users into paying customers. When it comes to Dialpad, it's a proprietary technology. So I guess the motion is a bit different. It's more sales-led, right? So from a marketing standpoint, what you have to do, you start by building brand awareness. You start by building product awareness. Then it's about product adoption. How do you talk the language of your ICP? How do you really resonate with the people you're trying to reach? And once you've done that, my team and myself were responsible for building that pipeline for the sales team, right? So how do you build a strong demand generation engine to fuel the level of growth that your sales team is looking to achieve? So those are like two contexts in which you can see that a marketing strategy, even within the same region, can differ dramatically depending on the product that you're selling. And I'll finish by saying that, you know, one of the key aspects of any go-to-market marketing strategy is strong collaboration with every other function that are included in GTM. That is strong partnership, strong collaboration across all functions, think sales, channel, product, sales engineering is absolutely key.
Okay, so we're about to touch on disruptive trends, and I'm sure that you guys know what I'm about to say. AI is one of those trends that really took us by storm in 2024. There are a lot of applications where AI can be misused in content. We see it with implications to SEO. We see it potentially with brand and also to customer trust. But in my opinion, one of those areas where there actually is a ton of value is in efficiency. Now, that isn't to say that there isn't also a lot of opportunity in content. But Jo, you guys have been using some AI across your marketing function. Can you touch on what that application has looked like?
Yeah, I think we've probably touched on a lot of the AI applications that most other businesses have. Possibly, I know we've used translation services for some of our international markets, but we use generative AI to do content, both copy and image. We use it to do note-taking, diary management. So there's lots across our group. And one of the things that I work in the group function, the company that owns all of the other businesses. So one of the things that we had to do was kind of go on a bit of an education and principles program where we had to educate up the board and the senior leadership team who weren't necessarily really au fait with how AI was going to impact the business. There's still quite a lot of fear around AI in business anyway. So, you know, take the robots aside, the efficiencies that you can get are absolutely brilliant. And I think, you know, they've touched on this before, a lot of AI is just going to take away that kind of desk research that we do and the creation that takes ages and ages to write and generate. So there's lots of efficiencies there. But because we have these disparate divisions, we needed to work on principles for AI that were going to suit all of the different divisions in the different ways that they were going to use AI. And so we started looking at what were our core principles around using AI products. And And it is a bit different, but one of the things that we're all really aligned on as a business is that we're going to utilize AI products that champion humans first and not just profit. And it's easier said than done sometimes, I know, but I think if you can live by that as a guiding principle, then everything else should fall into place. But what that also means is that you educate your staff that they can challenge the products, make sure that, if something doesn't seem right, you feed back that you think there might be a bias in the algorithms, whatever that looks like. And that all comes down to education. So we had to do an education program. We've got principles of using AI, and we've also got a policy, which is in early formation at the moment, purely because policy is often driven by law, and there isn't AI law in the UK yet. You've obviously got the European law which is just coming into play, but I think that will feed the UK as well. So it's quite embryonic, but it was a starting place for us.
And then Maegan, where are you guys seeing the greatest value with your use of AI?
We've been using it a lot in our media production. So our head of media uses a tool that allows you to fix people's eyes. So when you are reading a script and you have to look back at the camera and you're doing this, it keeps it straight. So that's been a cool way. And then in recruitment, like I touched on, just shortening that process of reviewing hundreds of resumes.
Nice.
Yeah.
Auberie, Dialpad is obviously an AI
Yeah,
product.
Dialpad is an AI company, not your typical AI company as you might think of ChatGPT or whatnot, but we're an AI company. We have an AI-powered product. As I mentioned, we're a communication platform that provides out-of-the-box AI features. So it wouldn't be right for us not to use it. So basically what that means in practice is all of the calls, meetings, messages that the Dialpad organization as a whole basically makes are going through Dialpad as a product, which means that we can then just use all of the AI features to really increase our productivity, drive more sales, et cetera, et cetera. So those features I'm talking about in Dialpad specifically are live transcription, instant summaries after the meeting sent to your email, summary of the action items that were discussed in the meeting. So really, to your point, Jo, it's about enhancing the human rather than replacing the human. And again, this is all very new technology. So we've appointed a chief AI officer at Dialpad that educates our AI strategy from a product development standpoint to make sure it is ethical and is not built with bias, as well as really defines our AI adoption at the company level from a tools standpoint. So I think that really speaks to what the two of you were talking about.
So Maegan, we touched on briefly about building a cohesive brand during mergers and acquisitions, and I think a big piece of that is proving marketing's value. Now, we had discussed a while ago that you took Airswift from being seen as a cost center to a revenue center. Can you share with us a little bit about your approach to building out that revenue generating engine?
Yeah. So I'm blessed to have someone on my team this is his skill set, and he connected all of our systems together. Before they were pretty separate and siloed, and so we knew we were driving revenue, but we didn't know how much. It was like Mark said, the 50-50, we're not sure what's working. So what we did is we used Bullhorn for our CRM, and then we use HubSpot for all of the front-end marketing activities. And so we connected those two together and have a middleware that connects all the software so information flows back and forth. And basically what we were able to do is show that these number of leads come in through the website, express interest, they're a hand raiser, they want our services. We then track that through to track whenever they change status in our CRM. Okay, they became a client. Okay, we got a job order from them, and basically tracking it all the way down your marketing funnel. So we know at the end how much revenue came from that client that came through the website. And it's updating constantly, it's live, and then we have it broken down into several other data sets as well. So we can see, here are the top 10 clients by spend that came in, here are the industries that we've diversified into, so outside of oil and gas and energy, we can see how that's changed over time. But it basically has changed the way we're viewed internally, as we were viewed before as just the party planners, you know, the people that spend money. And now we have sales saying, oh my gosh, where did my leads go? If they fall back a little bit one month, they are knocking at our door, and they really rely on them, and we have a good close rate on them. So it's been a really cool shift. And then what I would say is, in your conversations with your CFO or with your finance team, do not go into those conversations talking about likes, impressions, shares. They do not care. You need to speak their language, and as marketers, we're really good at positioning and putting that product or service into the minds of our clients. We need to take that skill in-house, and we need to do that with your finance executives, and you need to position marketing in a way that's a revenue generator and speak their language, which is financials.
Well, so Auberie, you've done a lot of work building out Dialpad's sort of pipeline marketing and having those conversations with those wider teams. What has been your approach in building that revenue generator?
Yeah, so building upon what Maegan was saying, Dialpad is, I would say, with no ill intent, we're a step even further in the sense that we already have all the building blocks that you were talking about. And what we're doing is we are taking that pipeline generation approach in marketing to forecast, to do that backward funnel approach. So you are probably all familiar with the term ARR, which is basically what the company is trying to achieve from a sales standpoint. That is defined by RevOps. So we partner very closely with RevOps to do that backward funnel analysis. So we take the ARR number, we define then what the pipeline coverage needs to be coming from every sources, namely marketing, sales generated, and channel. Once we have those numbers on the marketing side of the house, we then break it down as in we look at, hey, this is a pipeline, this is the actionable pipeline we can expect from the pipeline we're going to be generating. So we look at conversion rates by source, and this will then educate the type of programs and the level of spend we're going to be actually putting into those marketing sources. And then it will cascade down a level even further, which is the MQL number that we're going to need to generate that pipeline. And then ultimately, the level of users that we need on our website, the level of users that we need seeing our ads, and other more high-level metrics. So that's really the way we're doing it at Dialpad. And to add more complexity into that, we also leverage AI tools to help us with the forecasting. And obviously, we have very competent people that are basically building models, and they are able to review those models to make sure that they make sense. But this is pretty much the approach we have to go to market and to make sure that we're meeting our sales goals, basically.
Yeah, Jo, Trafalgar Entertainment Groups, your guys' go-to-market motion and how marketing has been positioned is a little different. You guys have always been seen as that revenue generator. In your guys' group level, how have you positioned the operations? How have you aligned every company across the group in order to continue driving that revenue?
Yeah, I mentioned before, we kind of segregate our businesses into 6 different divisions, and we've been on a buy and build acquisition strategy for a number of years. So a lot of what we've had to do is instill systems which are consistent across all of those businesses so that we can start to have consistent reporting lines, consistent KPIs. Actually, one of the tools that helped us do that from a marketing perspective is HubSpot, because before that, people were using MailChimp or .mailer, loads of different things, and we couldn't really see what was going on across the group. So that's been really helpful. And you know, when you bring a new acquisition on, they have to fall in line with how the group already operates. So it's a bit of a transition process. But I definitely think getting people onto HubSpot has allowed us to start to see all of our customers. We didn't know before. We knew we had pockets of customers everywhere. We can now say we've got 4.6 million, 3.9 in the UK, 200,000 of shopping across multiple businesses in the group, and that's really important for us because we can build upon that. And I think it was it Jo who was saying before? I can't remember that. you know, if you can identify that you've got customers that are shopping in multiple businesses across your group, they're stickier. They obviously have a higher lifetime value as well. So it's just important to see the transparency of all of that. And we didn't before when we were buying and building and just bolting them on. So it's been really helpful for us to be able to get that insight.
So Auberie, I think a common theme that we've talked about is like collaboration and that go-to-market alignment. You touched on how like sales, marketing, finance, everybody is sort of part of that picture. I think Dialpad has also done an incredible job at integrating partnerships, integrating product. How does that all fit in at Dialpad, and how does that impact your marketing strategy and your go-to-market approach?
Yeah, so it's really simple. It makes it easier. When everybody's aiming for the same goal, it just makes it easier, right? Because we all know we're basically working towards the same thing. We talk to one another. Nobody is in their own silos. We just launched campaign in full harmony, right? It's not just, oh, marketing had this brilliant idea. Let's just like do our little thing in our little corner and just launch it without telling anybody, right? That doesn't work. You need the entire company behind what you're trying to do to make campaigns and to make those things that you're trying to do from a marketing standpoint successful. So, I mean, beyond saying that it makes it easy, I can't really speak much more because it's really a company mandate that we have to really just break those silos and make sure that we're very transparent across the organization to make everybody's jobs easier.
Okay, well, I think that's all the time we have. We wanted to leave some opportunities for you guys to ask any questions to our panelists.
So to my earlier point in the panel, it really depends on your monetization model, right? Because in the open source model, really like the biggest lever was that developer relationship aspect of things. It was just like making sure people were adopting the product, were sticky in the product and just couldn't leave it. And then ultimately they wanted to do more with it. And then we had an out-of-the-box solution to sell them, or it would take them 2 to 3 years to develop it themselves, right? So that aspects in that model was what was the stickiest. When it comes to Dialpad, our main marketing source, or I guess channel, in this level or in that phase of our international expansion, because that's also something to be taken into account, we're still in an awareness phase. So I would say where we see the biggest impact and most of the marketing revenue come from are digital sources. Think about CPC, think about all those like organic and web sources where you're basically just like putting yourself out there. Your website is your window shop. Like if you don't have a good website that's optimized for demand generation, you're not going to capture that demand. You're going to lose your prospects. They're going to land on your website. They're going to kind of like scroll through your homepage. They can't find the information they're looking for. If they can't fill out a form to contact us, usually they will leave and go to someone else.
Yeah, good question. So we have a set of criteria that we've identified and weight them with different points, basically. So if they're at this company or in this location or they have this type of need, then they get weighted a little more heavily so that we kind of know who we're looking for, and then when they do come in, we rely on sales to give us the feedback of yes, they're good, and we can see if it progresses. We probably need to get better on getting the feedback of when it's not good. We don't tend to always get that from sales, but that would be helpful to know. And sometimes it's, you know, maybe they're looking for a short-term contract, like 3 months or less, and we don't typically do that. So it might be something that the lead's a good fit, but maybe just the commercials aren't right or something like that. But it's a two-way street of, you know, identifying that segment of the market we're going after, and marketing has set it out the way we think, and then getting that feedback from sales and watching it progress through. Does that help?
If I may add something, we do the same thing. So we do score our MQLs on the demographics or firmographic side of things, but we have a second scale as well, which is really their behavior, what they're doing, how they're interacting with our content, are they attending our events, are they attending webinars? So basically, we also weigh them based on that. And then we have different criterias for different segments, different industries, and then that all feeds into our funnel. So we're trying to be as granular as possible with our MQLs to make sure that they fit the exact ICP we're looking for.
Okay, I think that's all the time we have, but you guys can find the 3 of them in the other room and chat and ask your questions then. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.